Achtung. Welcome to, we have Wazefest, a little bit of backstage stuff. This is the Friday before the festival's actually opened, which means we're sort of roaming at will, looking at some of the stuff that's here. So we can talk about it without being bothered by all our millions of fans.
I know, sneak preview, isn't it?
Yeah, sneak
I feel
preview.
really special today.
Yeah, so do I.
You know, having this, we've just been on a Cromwell, haven't we? And,
Yeah, it's all good. It's all
perks
good.
of the job, Al.
What's not to like, James?
Absolutely nothing.
Apart from I got T-shirt number 1. He doesn't like that. Right, now, so who are we with, James? Explain what we're doing, because this. I mean, obviously, some big shells here, and then there's some smaller shells.
Right, we're here with the brilliant Keith Brigstock of the Garrison Artillery Volunteers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I've got it in the right. Volunteers of Artillery Volunteers. Anyway, the Garrison Artillery Volunteers. And Keith, you know, we've known each other for a few years now, and I have seen you put on these displays of a troop of 25-pounders, and indeed anti-tank guns as well. And you do it absolutely to the letter, and it's just an amazing thing to witness, because I think, you know, living history, you know, that phrase can be a bit of a dirty word, but when it's done properly, it's really, really good, and it does further your understanding. It's that idea of kind of learning from the process of doing. And I love the fact that you've trained up some 40 blokes in how to fire a 25-pounder, and they could do that tomorrow for real, if you really needed them to.
Yeah, they could. We've actually done some training with the Royal Artillery. We went out to Ireland with the Irish Army. We did some training out there as well. And so that's what we concentrate on. You know, we might not be the youngest or the slimmest, and we may look a bit off in our uniforms occasionally, but where our expertise is the drills and skills. And we sort of think of ourselves as a museum of drills and skills. You can't put drills and skills in a museum. You can't put it in a glass case. You've got to be able to learn them and do it. And a lot of people look really great, and they do what I call diorama reenacting, and they set up displays, and they look fantastic, and they know their stuff. But it's a bit different when you're going out there with 1 3/4 tons of gun, and you're trying to put it into action and do it right without losing your fingers.
Well, I was going to say, losing your fingers is obviously like a big part of this. Are you an artilleryman? Is that
I
your
was,
background?
yeah. I spent
right, so it's
20
your
years.
background, right?
Yeah. I still work at the School of Artillery now, so I'm immersed in it. They used to say, Brigstock, you cut him in half, it'll say Royal Artillery around the middle all the way through.
So is this a question of keeping this alive because it matters to you as a member of the Corps, and the history? Is it a blend of both?
It's pretty much a blend of both. I've also, standing outside looking in, sometimes inside doesn't necessarily see it quite so easy. And we've been doing some work with 221 battery, which are the reserves training batteries that go around and train some of the others and their instructors, about operating in a GPS denied environment. That's a skill we've now lost, and we're trying to relearn.
Isn't
but
that
of
fascinating?
course, whereas because we've kept those drills and skills alive, a manual survey using directors, passing line, and all of that side of it, we're able to now to show back to the army and saying, right, well, this is how it used to be done.
When your iPhone breaks, this is what you're going to do.
Yeah,
basically.
There's your compass. Here's your director. Now put your battery of guns in and get them all parallel.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? Because they weren't operating in a GPS denied environment, were they? There's no such thing as a GPS denied environment.
It was exactly that.
They were doing it normally. They were doing,
and so we've learnt the drills from the 1940s, mostly 1944 drill on the 25-pounder. And to be fair, the drills in 1940 on the gun, apart from a few word changes on the fire discipline, didn't change right the way up into the 90s.
Amazing. That is amazing. Because I suppose they're fundamentally basic skills, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
You know, it's not the gun, it's the principle, isn't it?
Yeah, they changed to mils from degrees, but other than that, the system was exactly the same.
Right.
Go on, James.
Well, no, I was going to say, so you know, we're standing around your encampment. There's a couple of 25-pounders there, the gun tractors, limbers beside them. We've got your tents here, but you've also set up a table here of enormous amount of shells and ammunition, and I know you have very, very strong views about all this and feel that a lot of people don't understand that the shell is the key part of this.
Exactly. You know, it's the shell is the weapon. The gun is just a means of delivery, and they all do different things. a bit like Thunderbird, you know, all the different Thunderbirds, and Thunderbird 2 has different payloads.
Would that be? I mean, like it's like basically an aeroplane. The aeroplane is the delivery system. The weapon is the, you know. So a Lancaster could drop a cookie. It could drop an incendiary bomb. It could drop
but you don't think of as the Lancaster as the weapon.
Yeah.
The bomb is the weapon, and exactly the same for an artillery piece. And you have all different, especially in the howitzer and the field role.
Yeah.
Not quite in the anti-tank role, because it's all about killing a target.
Yeah.
But certainly when you're delivering, I mean, if you start at this one at the end here, this is a 100-pound 5.5-inch howitzer shell.
That's a big boy, isn't it?
It's a biggie, isn't it? And that's the bigger one of the.
And that's HE, is it?
So that's the 80-pound, and there was a 100-pound version of it, which was even slightly bigger.
But that's high explosive.
That is high explosive with a 117 fuse. However,
so it's got this tip at the top, hasn't it? So that hits,
so you can unscrew that. You can unscrew that.
Yeah.
And vary the type of So it'll be delay. So while you leave that on, that's delay. So it means it'll go into the ground and blow up in the ground. Whereas if you take the top off, that's graze action or point detonating, which means as soon as it touches something, it'll explode.
Got it.
But that's an HE version. There was smoke. There was food delivery. In after Arnhem, we were firing 5.5 rounds over the top, delivering food. So they were base ejection rounds, leaflet delivery. So the round is functioning. And if you listen to the hierarchy and the gunners now, they'll say that the round functions in the target area. And the reason it's functioning, because it's either exploding, dropping smoke, base ejection, white phosphorus, gas, smoke.
Whatever.
So whatever it does, that's what it's doing. So it's delivering its payload. And that could be food. And they did drop food with them in the Second World War.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, I had no idea, did you?
No, I didn't know that. Now, but you're all about the 25-pounder though. Which doesn't lob anything like as
no,
as
that's a
big as
25-pounder around there. That's about half the size of the 80-pounder, 25. They did also though drop smoke, and they did drop leaflets out of 25-pounders as well. So what they did in the war, they took the base out, loaded it with, and took out the smoke canisters, and replaced them with leaflets.
Right.
And then fired them, and so it operates exactly the same as a smoke round does. So it goes through the air, gets to a certain point, the fuse detonates, blows the base of the round out, and then fires all the leaflets.
And the leaflet
out.
says, "You see, we can shell you quite easily. You'd be best off surrendering."
Exactly, and it works, because certainly towards the end of the war, we were leaflet going everywhere. A number of attacks after Arnhem were put off because we were leaflet dropping them, and they didn't want us to shell them while they were leaflet dropping them, because they wanted them to give up.
The 25-pounder though that's the mainstay artillery weapon, or field howitzer, isn't it?
Gun howitzer.
Gun howitzer that the British Army are using. What's the genesis of the weapon of the gun, and not the weapon of the gun?
Yes.
Where does it come from, and how does it fit in, and what's the story of it?
At the end of the First War, a gun that was developed called the Mark IV 18-pounder, and you've got one of them up at the shed there, and it was a fixed trail, recoil underneath the gun, and it was a multi-charge gun, so it could fire multi-charge. And then, sorry, it couldn't fire a multi-charge, but it was a fixed charge, like a bullet, 18-pounder rounds, fixed. And then what they did is they decided they needed to have a longer range. The range was too short. And they needed to have a variable charge. So they converted 18-pounders into 25-pounders.
Right.
So a Mark I 25-pounder is effectively the same as a Mark IV 18-pounder, except the bore is slightly bigger.
Yeah.
But what they did to save money, because it was only an interim solution, is they wanted to be able to use an 18-pounder breech block, which is a screw breech. So they made the base of the cartridges for an 25-pounder the same size as an 18-pounder.
Right.
So they could use
the
same
diameter
branch.
is the same.
Only at the base. So the 25-pounder is a lot straighter.
And what does the pounder, when you're talking about 25-pounder, 17-pounder, what does that mean?
That's the standard weight of the shell.
And the British do this in shell weight, don't we? And the Americans are 105 mil.
It's not quite as simple as that.
Oh God! I love that. But I love this though. So the weapon's a stopgap. There isn't a uniform way of looking at the round.
So they want to try and increase the range.
Yeah.
And because it's a gun howitzer, we'd never had a gun howitzer before. We'd either have a howitzer or a gun,
Yeah.
but never a gun howitzer before. So if you look at those charge in front of you, you'll see that one of them, this one, is dated 1937.
Yes.
But if you look at the name on it, it says 3.45.
Yeah.
Because, and this is where I'm going to explain very quickly and without putting you to sleep. So, two types of guns
Yeah.
from prehistory, Napoleonic period, all the rest. You had howitzers,
Yeah.
and you had guns.
Right.
Howitzers were always measured in diameter, 4.5, 5.5 rounds.
Sorry, and the difference between a gun and a howitzer is?
Is the angle it fires at. So
Right.
howitzers fire
They lob.
above. Yeah, they lob the rounds.
They lob, and a gun's a direct fire weapon. Ish.
Yeah.
I love this. It's
Not
all
exactly.
You can't
No.
ever quite get a straight answer out of artillerymen,
was-
can you?
Yeah, that's what the wife keeps telling me. So you're firing at an artillery piece, something like an 18-pounder.
Yeah.
It is indirect, but it's quite minimum range, and it's indirect, although you can see the enemy. So you're not firing at them.
Because that wouldn't work.
No, because the round would hit the
The
ground
round would hit the
miles.
ground.
It doesn't have the velocity of that.
So you've got to put an elevation on, and you're lobbing the shell, but the enemy could be close enough you could see them.
Right. What you're not doing is shelling someone on the other
You're
From
side.
the
of
reverse slopes of a hill.
Yeah,
No,
and
exactly
all
that.
that, yeah.
And that you need a howitzer to do at that time. And then we started to move forward into the First World War, in that sort of period, and suddenly everything changes. What happens in the First World War that we need to invent guns for? Aircraft, you need anti-aircraft guns.
Yeah.
Tanks, you need anti-tank guns.
Yeah.
So anti-aircraft guns, because they fire up, are similar to howitzers.
Yeah.
So anti-aircraft guns are pretty much all called by the caliber, the diameter of the caliber of the weapon. 40mm Bofors, 3.7-inch heavy anti-aircraft.
Yeah.
So they come from the.
So they're from the gun line, and
No,
then
they're from the howitzer line,
and then the
anti-tank guns come from the field gun side. So they're called 17-pounder, 2-pounder.
Got you.
It's all so clear suddenly, Jim.
Okay, well, I hadn't twigged that a 25-pounder and an 18-pounder were basically the same caliber.
Mark 1 at the Mark 1 level, yeah. So that they've not. There is a little bit of difference. I mean, there's only 6 pound of weight. So, but it's the base of the cartridge that was the key, because they wanted to be able to use the 18-pounder breech block.
And what you've got in there, that's just a cartridge, isn't it? That's not a shell.
That's just a cartridge, yeah. So the 25-pounder is a multi-charge system, whereas the 18-pounder is a
It's a
fixed
single
charge.
round. So that's like
a bullet.
like a cartridge in a shotgun.
Correct.
It comes packed. Whereas the difference between 25-pounder is you can vary the charge propellant force, basically.
Yes. So
if-
that's what they look like there. So you've got red, white, and blue charge bags. That's a charge 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
They fit inside the charge, and depending on the range, depending on what bags you have inside it when you fire it.
Yeah, and
Got you.
and the part of the calculation is wear and tear on the barrel as well. Because if you're using a sort of most peppy charge every time, there's wear and tear going into
But
the.
you wouldn't be able to fire it in short distances.
No, I know, but
Yeah,
there's some
is
of
an
that
element of
calculation
that.
going on.
But they have a way of measuring the fire on guns, and so you record every gun you fire. 1 CFE equates to 1 round charge super.
Right, gotcha.
And so you're allowed to fire 10,000 CFEs before you have to do a barrel change, something like that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me. But charge 1 is only a quarter of a CFE. Charge 2,
But this is the consideration that's going on in when you've got all these different bag charges.
So when they converted the 18-pounder to 25-pounder, the one thing they had to allow for was the fact it was a multi-charge system.
Yeah.
So they had to put a slightly different elevation system on the right-hand side, because you get a different range for different charges, and they had to be able to. They couldn't fire charge super though, and that's what the problem was with the Mark 1 25-pounder.
Right.
And just for those who don't know, so the brass sort of cartridge case, that's the propellant. So
That is the propellant,
So and
absolutely.
you have the different weights of charge and the levels of charge and all the rest of it. And so what that is doing is that is igniting, and in a very tight pressurized area, that is what is forcing the round to go. And then the rounds you have they do all the different things, but in terms of as a weapon, they're basically high explosive or solid shot.
Anti-tank would be solid shot, and
So solid shot is
indirect.
that's just a whopping great big bit of steel.
Yeah, so that is what as you can see, it's about 10 inches long, and
Yeah.
that is a 25-pounder solid shot.
Right.
They weren't bad, but they weren't particularly. It wasn't designed to be an anti-tank gun, but it did fill the gap.
But in extremis, in the desert,
they used it a lot as an
Over
anti-tank
open
because a
sights and
2-pounder wasn't man enough for a Panzer III or 4.
But just very quickly, we'll move on from shells pretty quickly. But here you've got a whole range of stuff, and you've also got the armour-piercing discarding sabot.
Yep.
And was that invented by the British?
As far as I'm aware, yes, it was.
I believe it was. Without wanting to sound remotely jingoistic.
And actually,
First came in August 1944, I think.
Yeah, and it was just a phenomenal. It was an absolute for short range work.
It's a Hungarian scientist, though. I think. I think it was. I think. Okay. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but it's British.
But weren't they on the German side, the Hungarians?
Well, exile. I'm pretty sure that it's some.
I think you may well be right.
What is a discarding sabot? Because again, we're doing a little bit of. We kind of know some of this.
As an anti-tank gun, as an anti-tank weapon, the armour-piercing discarding sabot was transformative because instead of a shell coming from a 17-pounder, I don't know, 3,200 feet per second, it's coming out at over 4,000 feet per second. And that's a hell of a velocity. There's nothing to touch it.
It's mega hardened steel, tungsten steel, and it will punch a hole. Yes, there was and I know you've mentioned this before. There was an issue with its accuracy.
Yeah,
so not over short range,
but not over short range. And actually, slightly, it wasn't long after the war when we had fin stabilised discarding sabot, and that got rid of that problem. And
the sabot being the cladding of the round. So you've got the actual projectile.
Yes, there's one here. Look.
Yeah, there you go. The pointy hard bit
goes all the way through.
That's right. And when this fires, when it comes out the barrel, it falls away.
Correct.
Or flies off and hits an infantryman.
and that means it's smaller, so therefore it's getting the same amount of propellant to push something through smaller.
Yeah.
So the smaller it is, the less weight it is, which means it's got more power from that.
But it's ironic, isn't it? Because
much larger level of propellant.
Because the guns are getting bigger, but the actual round is getting.
Well, I've said this before. There was 2 levels of technology going on at the time. There was one we felt that we kept needing bigger guns. But actually, we were actually coming back down. And as I said, the 2-pounder, while it was pretty ineffective in 1940, by the time we got to 45 with squeeze bore technology, it was a much more effective gun.
But squeeze bore technology to the uninitiated. What's that?
Well, it basically, because we had so many armoured cars that were fitted with 2-pounders, and we couldn't really, because the turrets were small, we couldn't fit anything bigger in. So we needed to make the guns better. So what they had is a fitment that they would put over the end of the barrel. Now, bearing in mind that a 2-pounder is 40mm.
Yeah.
But with squeeze bore, that squeezed the round down to 37mm.
Right. So the round is put through more sort of friction and.
Yes, it was designed. It looks
Wow, amazing.
It looks a little bit like an APDFS round, but this doesn't lose it. This is the bit that shrinks. It's not solid shot. It's shaped a bit like that, but that's so it can squeeze that down. But it just gives it much higher muzzle velocity, and that would take out a Panzer IV.
And muzzle velocity is what it's all about, and that is the speed with which a projectile is passing through the air.
One of the things you've got to think about is, and a lot of people don't understand it, is muzzle brakes. Now, at the start of the Second World War, we had no guns that had muzzle brakes on the end of them.
Yeah.
Now, muzzle brakes are about recoil. So a 25-pounder, it had to be able to fire charge super, but without a muzzle brake on, it couldn't fire charge super in the anti-tank role. So it was just too violent.
Right.
And so it would bounce.
It would hurt the crew and kill them.
No, it wasn't quite as bad as that, but it'd be jumping all over the place. You wouldn't hit anything, and it was just rubbish. As soon as we put a muzzle brake on, it steadied it down, and it meant we could fire charge super with anti-tank. And that, again, was a bit of a game changer.
I mean, the thing is,
it's not just about the size of the shell.
It's not.
Well, no, in some cases,
certainly not by the middle of 1944.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I mean, the 25-pounder's doing most of the leg work.
It is the field artillery piece. So much so, even in the we went to the Americans and we said, "Your priest, lovely bit of kit. Trouble is, it's got an American 105 in it. Not really good for us. Any chance of putting a 25-pounder in it?"
Yeah.
The Americans went, no, 105 is much better. No, it's not. So the Canadians went, and they said, "We'll do it for you." And they came out with a Sexton. The Sexton was an infinitely better bit of kit. And you got one ammunition source in the battlefield.
Yeah.
You're not trying to spread the load. So what we did, we thought,
And you want to make the quartermaster's life as easy as you possibly
Oh, yeah.
can. I mean, we've talked about this with the Italians.
Yeah.
You know, they've got 6mm rifle bullets. They've got 7.92.
Yeah.
They've got
Yeah.
9mm.
Yeah, it's
You
pick
know,
and
just
pick and
absolute
mix
carnage.
problem. Yeah.
so on D-Day, we still had a load of priests, but we thought that the carnage on D-Day was going to be phenomenal. So we equipped a lot of the SP regiments with priests on D-Day with a 105.
SP meaning self-propelled,
Propelled,
but it basically
yeah.
means a gun on tracks.
Tracks, exactly that. So we thought, well, they're going to get hammered on D-Day, so we'll let the priests take all the flak, and then as soon as we get inland, we'll
swap them
replace
out
them
for
with
sextants.
sextants. The problem was that we didn't take anywhere near the casualties we were expecting on priests, so we suddenly had all these regiments still have priests, and they were scratching their head a bit to know what to do, but they got rid of them eventually. But,
Yeah.
but the sextant is just absolutely my favourite piece of track of any type of vehicle.
That sound you're hearing in the background, by the way, is a universal carrier being having its clutch stripped by a novice driver, I think.
Yeah. And in this case, it's the owner.
Well, let's just have a very, very quick look at this gun tractor here.
Yeah, so we've been
Because
talking
we were
about the
talking about
priest,
this earlier, and this
but
is-
there's a gun tractor here, and it's a quad, right?
Yep, Morris quad, and it's called a quad because it's four-wheel drive.
Right. Simple as that. Now this is. I'm gonna stick my neck out. This is an ugly vehicle. It's a sort of. It looks like a sort of rhomboid, green rhomboid creature, doesn't it? It's squat in its features, and it's a.
Looks like a stink bug.
Yeah, that's it.
But what you've got to... There's two things you've got to understand.
Can I just say that that's another carrier gone
Yeah,
past?
God's
and
armoured
that
carrier
makes-
just gone past.
Yeah.
That makes Al very happy.
I love
Early-
carriers.
That's an early war one as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you're right, it's an ugly vehicle. However, it is probably the most recognisable wartime vehicle of any make or model. And that's purely down to Airfix and Dinky
Yeah.
making them. And every child has made an Airfix 25-pounder set with a Morris quad.
Yep.
And the Dinky ones were all Morris quads as
Yep,
well.
yep.
So it's probably the most recognisable.
But Keith, you were telling me earlier on that the reason that it's got all these sloping stairs, it
Yeah.
looks like it's sort of
Well, everybody thinks it's armoured because it's all metal, but it's not.
it's
And
all
the-
to do with gas, isn't it?
It is. It was. They were designed in the 1930s when gas was a massive thing. They had First World War.
Yeah.
Gas was a real problem for them, and so they needed to come up with a defence of gas. Of course, if you've got a canvas roof and you get gassed, instantly you lose your roof. You've
It's
got to get rid of
impregnated.
it.
You've got to get rid of it. Yeah,
exactly. So what they wanted was a vehicle that didn't do that. So they created the Morris Quad, and if you look at it carefully, you'll notice there is not a single flat surface pointing upwards anywhere on the vehicle.
Yes, there's no horizontal surfaces on the vehicle at all, are there?
Apart from on sides.
So anywhere you go,
Horizontal.
Oh yeah, that's vertical.
Yeah.
He's catching it.
He's catching up.
So
He'd never make an artilleryman though if you can't tell horizontal from vertical.
Yeah, fair point.
the rounds plan is a very unusual place. So anywhere that the gas goes onto it, of course, you can wash the vehicle and it would just soak
come off,
away.
yeah.
And that's what it was really good for. Of course, when they took it to the desert, they started to realise there was real problems. There's very little ventilation. That's why those were put on the top, the little spinners.
Unbelievably hot.
I can't imagine
And
how hot it was
yeah.
on there.
Well, they converted a lot of them. They put a canvas opening in the top, but still with a bit of slope on it.
And they were able to do that because it became clear quite quickly as the war proceeded that no one was going to use gas.
Yeah, and that's why they for D-Day, a lot of the later periods, they went to the number 5 body quad, which it is again a quad, but it can carry a lot more kit, and it has a canvas roof because the threat from gas was not there.
I mean, I'm looking inside here. It's pretty basic.
Yeah, basic, but basic's good because basic doesn't break down.
Yep.
So you've got 6 seats inside a quad, okay? But so one for the driver,
Yeah.
gun
4 at the
number
back.
1 at the front. But of the 4 at the back, only 3 are used.
Right.
Although there is a 6-man detachment, the numbers 5 and 6
Yeah.
travel in the limber vehicle.
Okay.
So you have, and so it works that in a battery of 4 guns, you have 6 tractors
Yep.
and 8 limbers.
Right.
So you have 2 tractors that are just towing, and we've got one of them up there that just towed 2 limbers.
Right.
But the numbers 5 and 6, who are the ammunition numbers on the detachment, travel in the
with that ammunition.
So in one troop, you've got 6 quads
6 quads in a troop, yeah.
for 4
guns.
4 guns.
4 guns, but 8 limbers.
So you're over
So
ammo.
every gun has 2 limbers.
Yeah.
basically.
So yeah, you got plenty of ammunition then
Yeah. Well, and one of these carries about 96 rounds.
as well. So there's ammunition in the tractor. There's ammunition in the limber, and then there's 2 other limbers being towed by another
That's
Right.
how it was designed.
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, by 44, they stopped really using the limbers as much, simply because we were firing so much ammunition, you couldn't carry enough in the limbers. So, near enough every gun had a Bedford OY with 300 rounds in behind it, dropping it off behind the gun. And unboxing ammunition. I mean, ammunition is a big thing, and I know I keep harping on it, but there's an example in the Falklands War.
Yeah.
So, 2-9 Commando, 8 Albemarle battery, were one of the fittest batteries in the British Army. They were all commandos, commando trained, fit as hell. And they were on an attack going in. I can't remember what the hill it was. But their battery commander afterwards said they were the fittest soldier he'd ever served with, and within 36 hours they were on their chin straps
Yeah.
because of the amount of ammunition they were unboxing to fire.
Right.
So it wasn't the yomping, it was the constant unboxing ammunition. It was just massive. Helicopter coming in, dropping pallet loads behind each.
So
each
that was
gun.
the thing that was the thing they spent their time doing, was unboxing ammunition, rather than firing the guns.
Yeah, that was just a small part of it. And if you ever see how much packaging that comes on a 105, it just... I mean, I remember when I used to be in the guns and they used to, at the back of the gun, we used to do Army Air Corps shoots, and the worst thing about Army Air Corps shoots was they always wanted to fire a lot of ammunition.
Right.
But you get halfway through the day and they decided they'd done enough, and you've got 100 unboxed rounds on the gun platform, and they go, yeah, okay, that's it, guys, box it back up again. So,
Right. So it's a lot of work. Being an artilleryman is a lot of sort of physical
a lot of
graft,
manual work.
isn't it? A lot of
Certainly
manual
during that-
labour.
Yeah, certainly during the war it was.
Yeah.
That's why they all look so lean and mean.
Well, it's why
Yeah, as you can tell from my...
Well, exactly. I was going to say,
Well,
you
you
obviously haven't
blanks, aren't you?
you haven't unpacked very much ammunition lately. I'm certainly packing a lot of ammunition.
I thought you were looking very trim.
Oh,
though.
thank you very
now
much.
can we go see the gun?
Yes, now we can go see it. But I want to hear all about this, because the thing about the artillery, the Corps of Artillery by the time of Normandy is the biggest part of the army.
Yeah, quarter of
There's
the
more,
entire army were gunners.
and more people in it than
22% were,
and
were
more
artillery.
people in the artillery than in the navy.
Yeah, but do you know why?
Well, because it's all this.
Firepower is king.
Because 360,000 men and women were in Iraq command.
Oh yeah. Let's not. You're ruining you're ruining my cool story about the Queen of the Battlefield here.
Well, no, the firepower was the queen of the battlefield. There's absolutely no question about it.
Yeah, I mean,
that was the
something like
Allied way of war. Same with the
80%, about 80% of all heavy anti-aircraft rounds fired from 1944 in Europe were fired in the indirect fire role and ground targets as medium artillery.
Brilliant. Let's go look at the.
They didn't do it in the Western Desert, but they certainly did in Northwest
And
Europe.
I've got-
Absolutely. Let's go look at the 25 pounder in action.
Yeah.
It's not with a gun crew though. With the
There's
detachment.
another-
No, it's with a gun detachment.
Here we go. We've got another carrier being unloaded. It's always a joyous sight. Another quad. This is our favourite Humber. We're just
Yeah, you
walking
really
past.
like that, don't you?
I love
Jim
this.
took us out for driving it earlier.
It's just a thing of
As
wonder.
we
that.
bounced across the field, he said, "You can do
Beautiful
60 in this." I thought that's probably not a good idea. Right now,
We're taking off.
So what we can see as we're walking towards it now is a 1944 25 pounder gun and number 5 bodied quad Morris.
Yeah.
With it hasn't got a 6-man detachment. It's only got 6 counting the driver. So they all are travelling in the
quad, right?
Yeah.
And who would have made this gun? Vickers? Where's
Well,
this?
all
bit-
different companies.
Right, so
All
everyone's
different-
making them.
Yeah, there's about 7 different companies that put them all together.
What's it called? A QF 25 pounder, isn't it?
Quick fire.
fire, yeah.
Yeah. So anything with a brass cartridge case was a quick fire, basically.
Right. Okay.
And so it's a beautiful bit of kit. I mean,
really is.
The 25 pounder only went out of service in Ireland with their reserve units about 5 years ago.
Is that so?
Yeah, we were live fire. We got the chance to go over there and live fire with the Irish Army.
How wonderful.
Is that the last time you were truly happy, Keith?
Yes, probably. we'd stroke him.
So look at this. So
Although
we've
they did
got
make us carry him up a hill. They're bloody heavy. I'll tell you.
I can
So it's
imagine.
got a thing that looks a bit like a sort of massive cartwheel underneath it.
Platform, and that's the wheels sit on the platform, which enables 360-degree turning, and you don't go. And then you see, if you look at we call it the banana boat for slang, but its actual proper name is the box spade, which sits over so it doesn't dig into the ground, so it means you can slew it around. So all of the recoil of the gun is taken on the platform, not on the trail. If you didn't have the platform, you'd have to take that off, and so
That's why it doesn't have splayed legs like a
Yeah.
17-pounder or a 6-pounder.
Exactly that.
Gun.
Got you.
And because
And
you've
that
only
just
got
makes it
5
easier to
degrees,
manoeuvre.
Yeah, but you've only got 5 degrees of Travis. So if you have any big switches, old number 3 puts his hand out, telling the number 1 he needs to move left and right.
Yeah, okay.
So when you're laying the gun, because it is an indirect fire weapon.
So Keith, we're going to see this in action, aren't we?
We are. We're going to.
So you're going to stay with us and sort of talk us through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we in the right position? And are you going to issue
Right.
orders?
If we go forward of it, then
Yeah.
we can. They don't have to do a big turnaround.
Okay. So the gun detachment is now
Okay.
entering the quad.
So just so you
The
can
gun
see,
tractor.
so they're all sat in there. As you can see, it's pretty cosy. But every single one of them has got a number, and they know what their number is. So over the far side, you've got the number. Next to him, you've got the
5,
next.
4, 2.
So they all have, and they all know where they sit.
Right.
And it's all to do with the job they do when they go into action. When they get out the gun, they're not crossing over each other. They're not getting in each other's way. They go straight to the picture. Andy, do you want to move your water can?
They
off
look
there
like a sort of
before we
khaki Beatles.
They
go
do.
on the platform? And the number one would normally come out. So the GPO would come onto the gun platform, and he would put out his gun markers, and then you'd come short, stop. The number 1 would jump out, run to his marker, and then he puts the sign up, and we'll simulate that's going on there. So if you go and stand up there, be on your marker.
And your gun tractor is the 50th Tyne-Tees Division.
That is it,
approved.
yeah, 124 Field Regiment, yeah.
Nice.
The junior,
Landed on Gold Beach.
yeah, but in July.
Yeah,
Came through in July,
The 50th
right.
Division.
50 div, yeah. 124th. They had one battery went in on the 12th of June, but
Yeah.
most of them didn't arrive till July. So it's very manoeuvrable. It looks like a long vehicle, but all of them follow the rear wheels. So wherever the tractor goes.
Right. Right, here they come.
So if we can walk this way, so we'll see what they're
Yeah.
doing better. So
everyone
each
knows
one-
exactly what he's got to do.
Yeah, every number has a job. They know what they're doing. The first thing they've got to do is drop the platform.
Right.
All right, and then
They
they'll
stand clear. The number
then
1 then controls the tractor.
quad pulls it up onto the
Yeah.
onto the platform. Right. Okay. So they don't have to do that by hand,
No.
Okay.
which would be a lot of effort.
Then they
wouldn't
put the lock in, so they can
Yeah.
lock it now so it can't fall back off again.
it? Yeah.
Then-
Driver, abroad, 1 yard.
1 yard. Imperial measures there.
Right,
Boris
we've
Johnson will be
come-
pleased.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything's in.
Yeah, it's allowed again, isn't it?
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's bringing it back. Right, and now they're turning the light around.
So the limber with the
limber,
ammunition
rather,
is
sorry.
put down by the side of the gun. They always put it to the front right, unless you're the far left gun, and then they put it on the other side.
Right.
So
Why
it
is that?
gives a bit of protection for the detachment if you come under fire.
Yeah, although it's full of ammunition, so I mean, I don't know how much protection it is
Oh
really.
well, yeah. It's very hard to set off a round with a bullet. I can
Right.
tell.
Okay. Right. Oh, good. You can tell me. You know this for a fact, do you?
Well, they've done some trials with
Right.
drops vehicles with
Right.
105s in,
Yeah.
and open it up on with a 50 cal and see if they can actually set
Set
the
it
rounds.
off. Right. Okay. Right. Now they're depressing the.
Well, so the very first thing you do once you've come into action, and it was quite smooth, they wouldn't
Yeah.
tell me, is you lay it at 10 degrees. So it's laid at 10 degrees, and then they would wait for the director, for the survey party, to shout aiming point director. They'd then turn the top of the dial slide onto the director. The director would give them a bearing. They'd put the angle. They'd put the angle on the sight, lay back on the bearing. He would then give them a reciprocal bearing, and then they tell him, centre of arc,
Yeah.
0, and then that would be line. So we're going to fire a round for you, but we're not going to do it where it's firing now because it's firing the wrong way. So what we'll do is we'll just move it round a bit. So Andy, if you move the gun so the barrel's facing towards the trees, and move the limber around accordingly, please. So the handles on there make it a lot easier to pick up. Just push it that way, out the way, Andy, and then...
There's a lot of as well as the precision of operating the sighting. There's a lot of just actual push and shove being a gunner, isn't there?
There is, and
like you say, it's very physical.
yeah, get the gun pointing where you want it, Andy, and then just put the limber on in the right place. So now you're going to see what the platform's for.
So basically, the 25 pounder has an enormous handle, like a big broom handle at the back.
Yeah, it's called hand spike, and
then various gripping points that they can pick the gun up and move it.
Yeah.
And you can even do it yourself a tiny bit. He's just on his own.
Number one, yeah. And actually, from the centre of the tote to the end is 10 degrees.
Right.
So we normally, when we're doing survey properly, we would put a peg in the ground under the toe eye. Yeah. And so if we knew the switch was more than 10 degrees, we'd know how to move it and where to move it to.
Right. God, they'd really thought of a lot, hadn't they, with this weapon? They'd really given it.
And even the light gun that we use today has got a lot of the lessons that we'd learned on the 25 pounder. It has a platform, in the old days. So, right. Any questions?
No.
Before it goes bang.
Okay. HE 117, charge 3. Blank round. Low.
Check, load.
Now, I'm not going to bother with loads of bearings and elevations like we would do. We'll just go through. Number one gun. Fire!
Fire!
Whoa. You can see why all the gunners get deaf, can't you?
I beg your pardon?
How was that?
I felt that right in my ghoulies. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it's very good.
Did that jump? Hope you got steady cam on there.
Can you fire another one?
Yeah, another one. We got two. Yeah. Low. When we do the 1812 overkill, we have to get them off pretty damn quick.
Ready?
Throw number one. Stand by. Fire.
Fire!
So, how quickly would they turn around it? Because that's
there's
we're
different
taking
rates.
our time.
So
and we're discussing.
so rate 1 is 1 round a minute. Rate 6 is 6 rounds a minute. So, and that would be the standard. But the the Canadians in France were getting away about 17 rounds a minute. On a good detachment. Although the barrel gets hot very quick.
Yes, yeah, and there's your problem.
Well,
Yes.
if you come forward now, this is just blanks. If you put your hand on that barrel, you'll feel how warm it is.
Yeah, just from 2 rounds.
That's just 2 blanks.
Oh yeah.
And you imagine you've got the friction of the round going up there as well. It gets hot very quickly. I mean, we used to pour water down the barrels and all sorts, but
And in the desert, where it's hot anyway, your guns could get quite hot quite quickly. Yeah.
well, that sometimes can work for you.
Right.
So there's a big argument about when was the 25 pounder last used by the Royal Artillery in anger.
Yes.
And a lot of people think it was with the SAS.
Yes, that famous battle.
At Murbat.
Yeah, Murbat. Yeah.
But that was 1971. In 1975, there was a battery of artillery based in the Salalah airfield, guarding the airfield, and it had 4 OPs on the top, called Diana 1, Diana 4, and they needed to put a Diana 5 out. So they were taken out of that and went into action, and that was in 1975. And they were Cracker Battery was an artillery battery. They had Jordanian troops in it as well, but they were all officered and all the key posts were gunners. So, and Bob Begbie, who's a friend of the Garrison, he still works at the school. He was the GPO at the time. And we had 2 5.5s in that battery, as well as 25 pounders. And the enemy were putting their heavy mortars so they could engage the OPs, but we couldn't engage them.
Right.
They were just out of range.
Yeah.
So what he did was he laid some crinkly tin on the ground and laid the cartridges out on the ground and cooked them. Got them as hot as he could and then fired them.
And they went further.
And they increased the range by nearly 500. And that's knowing the ballistic problem. So that is a gunnery problem. And knowing it inside out is how you can increase the range of your gun by knowing what you can do with it.
Wow. Amazing.
I mean, this makes gunners sound almost as cool as sappers.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, well, you do realise in the Royal Artillery,
I know all this.
They were playing football yesterday, the gunners against the sappers.
Yeah.
It's the only one that they can get their corps colours for. They can play every other corps, but the only ones they can get it for is playing our brothers, the Royal Engineers.
Well, that is just absolutely fantastic. How amazing to see
And
these in action. Don't you think?
how many? Yeah, completely. How many 25-pounders were built, and how many were deployed?
Do you know what? I don't actually know for sure. It was over 3,000, I think.
Right.
And the Canadians made them, we made them, the Australians made them, but I couldn't tell you exactly how many.
But that just
were
goes
made.
to show how many were made. Is that you just kind of no idea?
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many
commonplace, isn't it?
different. So there is a version of the 25-pounder that doesn't have this muzzle brake on.
Right.
It's still a Mark II. Putting the muzzle brake on it didn't change it. It's still a Mark II.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people think that if it hasn't got a muzzle brake, it's a Mark I. If it has got a muzzle brake, it's a Mark II. But that's not the case. But the one we've got one that hasn't got a muzzle brake on, doesn't have the counterbalance weight on either.
Yeah.
Built in 1940. Even the tyres were 1940 dated. The 25-pounder Mark II was one of the first guns to fire at the enemy in the Second World War.
Right.
Yet it wasn't in France or Belgium or Holland.
Well, what? All right. What? Norway?
Norway. We sent 3 batteries of 3 troops of 25-pounder. We sent 4 brigades,
Yeah.
which should have been 4 regiments, but
Yeah.
we only sent 3 batteries, or 3 troops. Sorry, 1
Really?
battery. Yeah.
Peculiar. And did they get their guns out, or did they leave them? All right. So
but they blew them up well.
right. Oh, good.
But that was the first time that they were used in anger.
Amazing.
What a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Great.
I know
Well,
a
thank
lot.
you, Keith.
I know a lot more about how confusing artillery is now.
Yeah.
And how
mean-
boring I am.
No. You've come to the right place with this podcast. Let me tell you that.
Yeah. That wasn't boring at all.
No, it was absolutely fascinating.
And we'll have 4 guns in the arena, plus the sextant, so we'll have 5 25-pounders firing.
Oh, we're going to see the sexton firing.
Yeah. That's why it's there, because that's coming into the arena to fire.
Hallelujah.
That's just made your weekend, hasn't it?
Yes,
And
yeah.
we've got to get you both on one of the guns to fire.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
So that we'll make that happen during the weekend.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers,
and
Keith. Thank you,
thanks,
boys.
gentlemen. I thought that was a really impeccable display of drill from the khaki Beatles. I think John Paul George. You get to fight over which one's which. Who's Ringo and
Who's
Pete Best.
The
Yeah.
extra Beatles.
No, thanks very much, Keith. Thanks for watching, everyone. That's just a snippet of the sort of stuff we've got going on here at Warfest. Cheerio.